Introducing our guest today, Dr. Teri Staloch, is, if you haven't met her yet, she's fantastic. She is the new Robbinsdale Area Schools Superintendent with a long and distinguished career in K-12 education. She cut her teeth first as a middle school English teacher, God bless her heart, in St. Charles, Minnesota, in the St. Charles public school system before teaching and directing, I'm scrolling up here, directing educational and professional development studies at Winona State University and University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. Dr. Staloch made the jump to principal in the Holman, Wisconsin school district before returning to Minnesota to serve as the assistant superintendent at Osseo Area Schools from 2012 to 2015, and then as the superintendent for Prior Lake Savage Area Schools between 2015 and 2022. Most recently, she was the Director of Engagement and Strategic Partnerships for Partner Ed, am I saying that right? Partner Ed Consultants, and a Senior Educational Consultant for SitelogIQ. Okay, good. All right, Teri is, beyond being impressive here, she is just brilliant as well. She has, her BA is in English from Luther College, go Norse, right? And she has her Educational Policy and Administration degree, doctorate, as well as a master's in education in curriculum and instruction from the University of Minnesota. So she's also got the Gophers to cheer for. But the best way to describe Teri is through her purpose statement, which is as follows. Quote, "I lead to inspire, empower, and develop others to thrive so that we can collaboratively create life chances, equitable outcomes, and a sense of belonging for all learners through trust, service, authenticity, and love." End quote. Having already worked with Dr. Staloch within the school district, I can tell you that her mission statement is spot on. We are so lucky to have Dr. Staloch at the helm of the Robbinsdale School District. She is the right person for the right moment, and will you please help me welcome Dr. Teri Staloch.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Actually, it's really fun that you shared my purpose statement. I literally just came from a student safety summit at the Plymouth Community Center, where 50 of our students from across the district were working with police and emergency responders, the FBI, to work on how our students can be empowered to support and enhance school safety, both the physical notion of it and the social emotional piece of supporting students. The way I introduced myself was through that purpose statement. So it's not just words, it's how I lead, it's how I live. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for having me today. It's December, right now, 10th, whatever it is. So I've been here 5 months and have done everything that I can in those 5 months to be out in the community. This is a new challenge for me with serving 5 different municipalities and cities. So I'm really grateful that you are spending some time with me. I think it's important that the community knows who I am. As the superintendent of schools, I want to be more than just the leader of the school district. I want to be an educational leader for our community. So thanks so much. And really for me today, I want you to learn a little bit about me. I'll whip through some slides, a little bit about where we are in Robbinsdale Area Schools, and then I'll be happy to take any questions. So with that is my purpose statement that Shep just shared with you. But in terms of Robbinsdale Area Schools, our mission is to inspire and educate all learners to develop their unique potential and ultimately to positively contribute to community. And certainly places like this are important for kids to know that that's part of what's in front of them is service. And the students that I was with this morning, it was about service. So a little bit about who I am. This is my family, my wife Trish and our 2 sons, Tate and Tegan. Tate is a University of St. Thomas graduate, employed by United Health Group, so he has had a tough week. Tegan is a senior at Gonzaga University. There really is a Gonzaga University beyond the basketball team. In Spokane, Washington. He's an engineering major who I think fortunately, he's got a job offer already. Unfortunately, it's going to be staying in the Pacific Northwest. But my pride and joy, the reason that I exist and the best job I've ever had is raising these two amazing human beings. The picture on the left, we hiked Machu Picchu last year, so that was pretty fun. The picture on the right, in terms of who I am as an educator, education runs deep in my bones and in my blood. The picture on the left is a picture of my grandmother, who passed away a few years ago at the age of 101. She taught in a one-room schoolhouse, and the one-room schoolhouse is very close to where she lived. So I grew up playing school in that one-room schoolhouse and hearing stories about how, these 13, 14-year-old students would help the younger students, and just thinking about that sense of community. And I think that really shaped how I came into the classroom, is how do we help each other as adults and kids serve in community to be the best that we can be, and that stayed with me my entire career. The picture on the right are my parents. My father served on the local school board for a number of years, and I think of him often, especially in the different challenges that I've had in my term as a leader. He was serving on the school board, and grew up in a small town in southern Minnesota at the time when first they had to make the decision to consolidate and later to close. So you all know, especially in small towns, what that means. So, as I'm dealing with some of the challenges that I'm sure you've seen on the news recently, I think of him often. So grew up on a farm, amazing upbringing, and had a great experience. So who am I as a leader? I believe in public education. I believe in the people who choose to serve in public education. I have a whole slew of folks back here who talked about the multiple ways that they've served education, and specifically Robbinsdale, which is so amazing. I believe in the brilliance of each of our students. I believe we have a long way to go, though, to create educational equity and outcomes for our students. I believe that student outcomes aren't going to change until adult behaviors change. I believe in social justice, racial equity, and being the change that I expect others to be in the world. I also believe in leading with and living with love, kindness, and joy. Our work's really hard, and there's a certain urgency. This may sound dramatic, but I believe it. In education, and I think today more than any time in my career, it really is a matter of life and death for some of our children. So I think that how we show up as adults and the ways that we support who they are meant to be, not who we want them to be, really matters. So I have an urgency in how I live and how I lead, and I want to be sure that I recognize the privilege that I have, and I want to be sure that I use that privilege for good. There's a whole lot more about me on our website if you want to learn. But I want to talk a little bit about, as I came into Robbinsdale, I just did a little bit of a history look. So our roots in Robbinsdale Area Schools go back to 1865. You can see some of our students here. This is the first school that was built in the district, $10,000. They bonded for this building, and at that time it was meant to be large enough to serve for all times. Well, after about 200 students, right, in 1913, added on for the price of $14,000 in bonds, and the name was changed to Robbinsdale Public Schools. It was the K-8 building until the high school was built in 1937. In 1970-71. Robbinsdale Area Schools was the 4th largest district in the state, with about 28,101 students. So I know, right? So today, who are we? We are a large, vibrant, diverse school district with a deep connection and tradition to our community. I have never been a place that I have met so many people with such pride, whether they are Robbinsdale graduates, Armstrong graduates, or Cooper graduates. It's just been fascinating for me coming into this community, and really, really fun. So it's been awesome. Our school district serves all or parts of 7 cities: Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, Crystal, Golden Valley, New Hope, Plymouth, and Robbinsdale. Which again, for me, coming from Prior Lake Savage, there were 2 municipalities. So interesting for me to be meeting mayors and city council member and police chief from multiple agencies who have been unbelievably supportive and welcoming of my entrance into the district. So right now, this number is a little bit shy. It was last year's number, and we actually have increased, but we're at about 10,400 students right now. Again, a little different from that 28,000 that we had way back in the day. Serving an incredibly diverse population where there are 83 different languages spoken at home in the homes of our students. Those 10,400 students are served by about 1,900 staff in all areas, both our certified teachers and leaders, as well as our custodians and child nutritious service staff, all supporting that mission around helping kids. We've got about 21 different programs in schools, and just an amazing array of opportunities for our students. Each of our graduates, each of our students come to us with their own identity, their own story, and maybe it's the English teacher in me, but I believe our role is to help them continue to write the next chapter of their story and to do everything we can to support them on their journey as they find their passions. So we do that in a lot of ways, right? By offering amazing opportunities in the classroom where academic excellence and opportunities have to be a part of it, but also outside of the classroom where kids can really figure out what is it they care about that may or may not lead to a career, but certainly to life passions. So we see kids in band, in choir, in athletics across the board, in robotics, and just every place I go, I see amazing things happening with our students as we continue to support them and give them what they need to be successful. I came into the district and actually the strategic plan, which most organizations have, it hadn't been elevated. It was in January of 2022. It was board approved, community created and board approved, but it hadn't really been elevated to the level that I lead through and with a strategic plan with. So we did some rebranding of it and really have attached all of our continuous improvement efforts to this strategic plan, grounded in equity, grounded in our mission, and grounded in the 4 themes of improving academic achievement, improving student engagement and well-being, partnerships and collaboration, which is why, again, this is so important, and then the investment in our staff and making sure we've got quality people across the board. So the strategic plan was called Rediscover Rdale. So as I kicked off the year, the theme that I used was it's time to rediscover Rdale and to really help people remember why they said yes. Like I said yes on May 27th or whatever that date was, but there are people that said yes 35 years ago. There are people that said yes 5 years ago. And to help staff remember, why'd you say yes? And why are you saying yes tomorrow, right? So every day be thinking about that to help our kids and our parents recognize how can they rediscover the great things that are happening and what their role is in continuing to improve it. So we really have strong support in our community in a survey that was conducted last spring. We can see that 79% of the people that took the survey said that they rated the quality of education in Robbinsdale as good or excellent, and 83% said that we're meeting the learning needs of all or most of our students. So while that data is really strong, I'm committed to continuous improvement. I am committed to excellence, and I know we have to do better by every metric that we currently are using, and some of those are external measures, some of those are internal, but we've got improvements to make in academics and graduation rates, in our fiscal stability, in our facilities, in how kids feel in terms of safety of our buildings. So we've got a lot of work to do. I'm proud of the team around me who's already bought into a lot of the elevation of the strategic plan and are working on various pieces of that. Had a learning leader meeting this morning with about 80 leaders, so principals, assistant principals, directors, my cabinet, and already are getting progress updates on the team that are working on those 4 themes and various work underneath it, just to keep improving things and making it better. So in the first round, before the election, and all the presentations that I did, I also talked about the capital projects levy renewal vote that was on the election. And now what I get to say is thank you to our community for supporting that continuation of funding. I have never been part of a community with 75% voter approval on any bond or referendum. And it's unbelievable, really, to me, to come in a new position in a community that places that much value and investment on education. So I'm incredibly grateful for that, and I carry that with me because I know that with that vote of confidence, there's a lot of important work that needs to be done in order for the mission to come to life for each of our kids. So with that, what I don't have on here, and you've read in the news, is certainly the budget. Oh, am I okay if I move?
You're fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Is certainly the budget concerns that you heard a couple weeks ago. That wasn't a budget error, it was an implementation error to the tune of about putting us in a position where we've got about $20 million of deficit. So I've been working on, and I believe it. It's not just words, like I really believe it. So during this meeting this morning with my team, and this is how I've talked about this, if any of you were at the town hall meeting or you've watched any of the media clips on it, this is where I'm at as a leader. We can look at problems all over the place because they exist. I also believe, and I've said from the beginning, that Robbinsdale Area Schools has absolutely untapped potential. And so how I'm leading is through a potential-based lens to see what can we become, what can we do, and at the end of the day, who is it that we must become because our kids need, want, and deserve better. So we have to do this huge budget reduction, so that's like real. And the other piece of this story is we get to build and rediscover a school district that's better for our kids. And so that's gonna take a whole lot of robust community engagement. This is the first time I will publicly say this number other than with my team, but I've told my team I want to engage our community in a way that I've never seen done before. So I want 50,000 touches on people's input around what is it that our kids want, need, and deserve. What is the school district that we need to reimagine? Because we can't cut our way out of $20 million. That's 10% of our budget. We can't. So we're gonna have to reimagine education, which I welcome, because the system we currently have was created 150 years ago for a very different time, a very different populace, a very different purpose. And I've spent 35 years in education tweaking, improving, trying to transform, and doing some good things for kids, but I think we have an opportunity here to really take what's awesome about Robbinsdale Area Schools and just elevate it to the next level and do something nobody's done. So that's what I'm gonna try to do. 50,000 touches, surveys, meetings, so you're gonna hear things. And I want you to help gather as many people to both take surveys and really these community engagement meetings that we'll have. So I am happy to take any questions that you have, and again, delighted to be here, so thank you.
Oh, quick question.
Yes.
On the timing of the budget fix, the 50,000 touches, does that have to be resolved by when?
Yeah, so two things. So these two things. So we've got to make budget decisions because 80% of our budget is people. It's going to impact staff. And so we need to make those decisions. Our staffing really by April needs to be done. If we are going to let people go, and we're going to need to reduce positions, all of that. So by March, we're going to have a really good idea. So there's two things happening, right? In terms of the community engagement, we right now on our website have a link for if you've got some ideas. And we'll, keep seeking that. The robust stuff in terms of what are we building, because both these things are going to happen at the same time. We'll start that in January, and I'm hoping by September, community group that have been studying this for the last 7 months will be bringing a recommendation forward to the school board. So in that community engagement process, that longer one, we'll really look at academic visioning. We'll look at programs that we currently have that align or don't to that vision. We'll look at our enrollment trends. even before this budget. 2019, we had 11,900 students. Our projections in 10 years later into 2029 were 9,300. So we were already on a trajectory, like many districts are, of decreasing enrollment. Right, we've got to figure out how to turn that trend, and I think if we create even a better product, we'll be able to do that. So we'll look at enrollment, we'll look at our facilities. We're operating too many buildings right now, and our buildings are in horrific shape right now. So we've got some work to do with facilities and determining what we repurpose, what we close, and then potentially an ask to the community for bond and investment to continue to create what it is our kids want and need. So those two things happening at the same time. I'm gonna have a gorgeous Gantt chart, I'm hoping by Monday night's board meeting, about the timeline of all this. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you think that project-based learning might find a role to play in interdisciplinary?
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of any hands-on project-based pathways. I think pathways is gonna absolutely be moving us forward, right? How do we give kids opportunities in school to take classes, to explore the trades or healthcare or business? In Prior Lake Savage Area Schools, our ALC, our alternative school, we completely transformed it. The entire school is run in a project-based learning format. So really amazing. So yeah, I mean, what we hear from kids, it doesn't matter where I've been, what I've heard from kids for 35 years is they don't see relevancy. There's no hands-on learning, they're bored. Like, we know this, so like, let's create something better. And that's gonna be a piece of it for sure. Thanks. Yeah.
During the time I was on the FAC, we
Yeah.
often talked about having to compete against Wayzata schools,
Yeah.
against Minnetonka. How do you see that as something that's impacting the district today?
Yeah, it does, right? So open enrollment, right? Families can choose to go to different schools. And, you know, at this point, I still don't think we're a net loss. And I think I don't quote me on that. I've already been quoted saying things wrong, and sometimes I do that, especially being taped. But I don't think we're a terrible loser in losing more kids than we gain, right? And you always want to be even with that. You know, part of the name of the game is competition. But there's a story behind that, because what are they measuring? What are we measuring? If we're measuring standardized tests, there's a whole different story behind that. So literally on Friday, I was at a workshop about data and what standardized tests tell us or don't tell us, and what are the other metrics that we need to establish. So I've always been a proponent. I am part of quality education for the last 25 years. I was a Baldrige criteria for performance excellence and continuous improvement examiner for years. So it's always about that balanced scorecard, right? Accountability for academics for sure, but what else matters? What else are we measuring? Right, the importance of kids being involved in activities, athletics, clubs, music matters, right? So all of those things. So number one, we have to tell our story better. Number two, we're always going to be competing with the Wayzatas and the Hopkins and the Minnetonkas, and I'm not afraid of that at all. I embrace it. We have to simply have a better product and a better lived experience for our kids. Because then the test scores, they're always going to matter. But this workshop I was at, they showed us, you know, school A and school B. School A's graduation rates were, 95% or whatever. School B's were 75%, whatever. And as we looked at it, school A, predictably, was a pretty wealthy white school. In my former district, and I loved serving in that district, our kids were most of our kids were going to be okay in spite of us as educators. Now that doesn't mean I don't think we matter, because I do think we matter, but most of our kids, many coming in kindergarten reading, or at least having access to print and all of that. So, right, there's a story there that's important. I'm in a different place now with Robbinsdale and access and poverty and different demographics and all of that. So I'm not worried about the competition. I embrace it. I'm a really competitive person, and I want to make sure that we increase our enrollment. Not only around the area, because I think we can create something that others will want to come to. But the stat that I'm most concerned about right now is we have about 70% of our residents, we call it a capture rate. 70% of our residents with children choose our school district. That should be the high 80s. That's where we should be. So I'm more worried about, we got to get our families that live in our neighborhoods back into our schools. So working on that, and then working on having different ways to measure our success against Wayzata and Minnetonka. Great question, thank you. Yes?
So what can organizations such as Rotary or other service organizations do to help our schools?
Yeah, thank you for that. So number one, you do. I saw the scholarship with Armstrong, so thanks for doing that. I think there's also, I think of civic organizations and the role that you have as leaders in the community. Your voice matters. Your stories matter. Your posts on Facebook matter. The influence that you have in places matter. So, for some of you, you have ties to Robbinsdale Area Schools, and I'd ask you, what's your experience been? I did this, I was at a PTO the other night talking, and the parents asked a very similar question. They said, I've got 10 minutes a day, what can I do to help? And I said, what was the experience of your kid? And they said, it was really positive. I said, then use those 10 minutes to tell the story. When you see something on Facebook, say, no, that's actually not accurate. When you talk to people and they say, yeah, we're thinking, we're going to Hopkins, we're not going to go to Robbinsdale, we're going to Wayzata. Why? Have you talked to a principal? Have you talked to the superintendent? So I think helping us tell our story and then the continued support that you give our kids is amazing. Thank you.
Will you be able to stay for questions after?
Yeah, be happy to.
Yeah.
Thank you.